Hi, hi everybody. Thank you for coming. Sorry for being a few minutes late. Just seeing if everybody could hear me. Just if you could hear me, just type it in the chat. I see Q, Safa, you guys are here. Um, great. Happy to see you all. Even Android is considered an operating system, which was built off the Linux system. And also our last class, we spoke about booting. What is booting? Booting is called the process of starting up a computer. That's the process. Let me get my marker here. So we have had process of starting a computer. All right. So we've spoken about operating system or hardware controls. Okay, so this diagram shows the function of an operating system. The operating system is the link between our software and our hardware. And our hardware will be our CPU, it will be our RAM, it will be our input and output. And always remember, there are two types of software that sits on the operating system. And that is our application software and our system software. We'll go into more details later on. So this is what we would have spoken about last week, our system software. So hardware control, the operating system supports tasks like accepting input and output and transferring data between primary and secondary memory for display and output. Okay, and then we would have spoken about memory management. Memory management basically means that if you do not have enough memory on your RAM, your software will use part of your hard drive or your secondary memory to make up or to behave like main memory in order for the program to run. So if the program is too large for the main memory, virtual memory will find a way to expand the main memory. So therefore the program will fit. So I have a nice little diagram here showing trying to fit your foot into a small shoe, but the process of virtual memory helps expand the memory so that the program could fit. And in this, I would have also gone through how to adjust your virtual memory in Windows. I have Windows 7. I think most of you, Windows 7 is actually it's an old piece of software. Many of you might have Windows 11 and up. So put in the chat, what type of Windows do you have? What kind of operating system do you have? And how you go about finding it, you go into the menu, you right click on computer, you go to properties, and the first window that comes up will tell you your operating system. Right, so this is where we left off last week. We would have done the quiz, the past paper 2023, paper 1, and we would have done up to 1 to 24, then we would have jumped to question 51, 57, and 60. So this is the answer key here. I also put the answer key in these slides so you could go over it in your spare time. But in another session, we will go through the questions and answers. All right. So now on this topic, same topic of system software, we would like to talk about input and output management. Now, this might sound a bit scary, but believe me, it's not scary. It just basically speaks about your drivers. So a driver is a software that helps the hardware to communicate with the computer. So for example, the mouse that you are using right now, that has a specific driver. And a driver means that there's a program or software that comes with the mouse that will help the computer understand the input and the output, well, the input and the output data between the computer and the mouse. Same goes for your web camera. Any sort of hardware will have a driver. So that's all it means. So sometimes you may get an error message on your, when you're trying to install a new piece of hardware onto your computer, sometimes you will see an error saying driver not supported. How many of us, I think some of us would have come across that message. Who would have seen that message when that error message sometimes? That's what it means. It means that the computer does not either recognize the program or the software or the driver, or sometimes the driver is outdated. And what it means by outdated is that what it means by outdated is that your mouse or your hardware might be compatible with Windows 7, but it may not be compatible with the newer versions of Windows, right? So that's what it means sometimes when they say a driver is outdated. Okay, everybody following so far? Everybody good? Any questions? Say now. Okay, good. So this diagram is a representation of what drivers are. Like I said, drivers is the software between the hardware and your computer system here. It helps that communication, that exchange of information between your hardware and your computer, because you just can't just willy-nilly plug anything into your computer. While you can, it won't work because they need to communicate. They need to have an understanding of what informations mean what, because remember, the computers communicate in ones and zeros. So the software will, the driver, I should say, will help that translation of one and zeros between your computer and your mouse. And sometimes it's just not ones and zeros, it's voltage variances, current variances. What does that mean? Does 5 volts mean up? 2 volts mean down? What that is the communication. All of that is what's happening between the hardware and software. All right. So that is drivers. And again, I would have highlighted what you just need to pay attention to. Each program, each device has a program called a driver, and that allows the device to communicate with the computer. That is all. You just need to remember. Now we're moving on to process management. And process management basically allocates time for processes to use the CPU, because the CPU, CPU means central processing unit. That's all the CPU does. It processes information. And any sort of process has to be done by the CPU. So process management basically says which program or software has access to the CPU at what time. So right now you have a lot of processes going on in your computer. If you look at your task manager, if you were to press Control Alt Delete and you select the task manager option, and you select the task manager option, you would see how many processes. You'll see more than 10, in some cases more than 20 processes are being utilized by the CPU. So that is an example of process management. So the process management, imagine that this clock represents a snapshot in time, and the process management is basically saying which part of the clock or the CPU has access to which process. So process A have this part of the pie, process B has this part of the pie. All right. So that's all it is. Process management is kind of like resource management or time management of your CPU. Your CPU is your central processing unit. All right, sorry, hope you all didn't hear me sneeze. I just sneezed. Hey, Jake, how are you, Jake? Right. So again, I would have just highlighted the key point of that whole paragraph. Process management allocates time for process says to use the CPU. CPU is your central processing unit. Simple stuff. Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? What's up? Tell me. Any chat, of course. Okay. So again, file management, as you would see, we're just talking about management. We're talking about input and output management. Speaking about process management. Speaking about file management. That's what all the software, system software does. It just manages um, who gets what allocation of what resources. Just management. So when you see file management, then we're talking about management of files. If you see process management, we're talking about the management of software to the CPU. They tell you it right there, right? Don't be too flustered when you see the word management and we're talking about computers. So file management is when files need to be saved and renamed and deleted, right? So before a file is saved onto your hard drive, obviously the software have to check if the memory or the hard drive, if there's enough space, right? So besides the space, it have to check for if the space is okay. No problem, no problem. Um, if it have to check for the space, so let's focus on file management here. On file management, the software have to check if the hard drive has enough memory or space to store the file. In addition to that, the file manager has to check to see if there's any other file name with the same name, right? So how many times we try to save a file with the same name, exact spelling, and we get a prompt from the computer that says, look, there's a file with the same name. What do you do? What do you want to overwrite it? Do you want to rename your file? All of that is what file management does. It sounds like a simple job, but it's a lot of processing because, again, the computer only speaks in ones and zeros, but we communicate with the computer visually and with, well, hopefully English, but in other human languages as well. Okay. Also, file management have to delete files as well. So that is file management. Utility software. Okay. So utility software is specialized software. I just want to underline specialized software because we're going to see this term come up a lot. Specialized software. We're going to see the term custom written software. We're going to see the term generalized software. Any comments, slides? So just pay attention to this. Just make a little note there real quick on that. And later on, you will see why I highlighted that. So utility software is a specialized software that tries to protect and maintain system software. For example, they will be example including protecting software against damage caused by computer viruses, backing up files and recovering files. Anybody ever had their computer, anybody here computer ever got a virus? Now, when I say a virus, I don't mean the COVID virus. I'm talking about a computer virus. Anybody here ever had that happen to them? Okay, I guess not. And I think one reason why many of you may not get a computer virus is because your system software will have an antivirus. So Windows software does come embedded with antivirus and also a firewall. Back in my days, you didn't get those fancy utility software built into the hardware because Microsoft was still figuring out how they just wanted to get Windows out, and it was fresh, it was new, and it was still a very vulnerable piece of software. And it didn't have antivirus, didn't have firewalls and stuff, software back then. So I used to get plenty computer viruses when I started. But now, because of utility software and they are becoming more and more ad, uh, let's say advanced and more complex, you would have built into your software, you would have, sorry, built into your operating system, an antivirus, you would have a firewall, you would have a system utility software also for backing up your files. So for example, um, I'm sure some of you with your WhatsApp backing up files, it allows you to back up your chats and your chats and messages remotely on and we spoke about cloud storage last week remotely. So if you were to change your phone, if you change your SIM card or you get a new phone and you were to log in back into your WhatsApp, your backup files, your WhatsApp will now log in to your backup files that you would have stored on the cloud and then recover all of your messages, basically as if nothing happened. So that is the importance of your utility software because it allows you to back up your files and to recover it. So in case when your software has crashed or stopped working, you could go back to normal rather than having to know, oh, I have to go and get back my messages or all kind of thing at a reinstall software, right? So that is what recovery, backup and recovery is, and that is built into your utility software. Okay, right? So just pay attention to utility software. Again, I highlighted what we just need to remember. The key points: utility is a specialized software that maintains and protects the system software against any damage. And this is what an example of the utility software that comes with Windows. So Windows utilities, some of you may be aware of this, these utility software, some of you may not be aware of it. You don't need to memorize any of these for exams. This is just for your knowledge of what it looks like. So there's a diagnostics, there's a registry editor. Some of you who are really into software programming will start playing around with this. A disk cleanup, right? So if your computer, your hard drive is running out of memory and you need to make more space, your disk cleanup will come handy. You have task manager, which comes in important. Sometimes your computer might be running slow and your computer not even old, is a relatively new computer and you find it moving slow. You might want to check the task manager and see if there's any processes that are overloading the CPU, meaning unnecessary processes, right? And user manager, this would be for your login, and right. So this SQL server, when you start to deal with databases, you had to play around with this. All right. So that is what utility software looks like on Windows. Okay. Question time, question time. For those of you who were paying attention. But before we get into that, let me just go back real quick to the slides. So question one is the purpose of system software. Name one computer operating system and one mobile operating system, and state the name of term that matches the following. Process of starting a computing method that uses split a program into manageable blocks. So let's see. Let's go back to the slides here. So the answers would be, right. So last week we would have started with operating system. So system software, or the operating system, as you would see, the operating system, some commonly used, commonly called as the system software, is called an operating system. And here are some examples of operating systems. Right. Okay. Yeah. Notice I highlighted some of those terms, but of course, I highlighted it here also in this slide. So one thing to always remember, operating system is also called a system software. And examples are Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Apple iOS, and Google Android. And the process of starting up a computer is known as booting. Not that type of booting, but booting, you start process of starting up a computer. And it's also important to remember that any program or software that needs to be run onto the computer, that needs to be executed on the computer, has to be loaded onto the RAM, or the random access memory. Any software, whether it's operating software, application software, or custom written software, or general software, have to be loaded onto the RAM. Pay attention to that because they love to ask those questions in the past papers. So once again, booting is the process of starting a computer, right? But when you now start a computer, the RAM chip or the BIOS will look for an operating system and tell the computer to load it onto the RAM. And this is the operating system hardware control. Remember, hardware control communicates both the hardware or the peripheral devices to the computer. We have memory management, virtual memory, process management, drivers. Input and output management is where the drivers come in. Process management is the management of processes. File management, management of files, utility software. All right, so went over the slides there and we're now on to the questions. So question one, explain the purpose of system software. Who could tell me what is the purpose of system software? Remember, there's another name for system software, and that purpose is giving you all 1 minute to type in your answers. Okay, I could see this topic is a little challenging. So the purpose of system software or the operating system, and we have it here in the slides, right? We have it here. So the purpose of a system software is to tell the computer, and so the operating system will tell the hardware or the peripheral devices and the computer how to communicate. It's the process of the communication between the hardware. And the hardware is not just your keyboard and mouse. Your hardware is also the RAM, the random access memory, is also the CPU, the central processing unit. It will tell the hardware and the software what to do. Because without the operating system, the computer will not start. So that's the process of the system software. It tells the computer, or the hardware is the process of the hardware, right? And the software of communicating with each other. And without it, the computer will not start or boot. Question 2. Name one computer operating system and one mobile operating system. This one should be easy because everybody is using, as whether it's today, tomorrow, yesterday, somebody is using a computer operating system and one mobile operating system. So real quick, name one computer operating system. I'll give you a hint. You are using it right now. Come on. So one is Windows. I'm using Windows. So we could say Windows 10 or Windows 11, which one you're using. And uh, we also could say Linux. I think I spelled that correct. And even Mac OS. Mac iOS actually. No, Mac OS. Macintosh OS. Oops. Great Wall. It surely mean Huawei. Great Wall is which? I haven't heard of Great Wall. What kind of computer uses that? Is that the Alienware? you're talking about, the gaming one. Is that PlayStation or something? Well, Sony and PlayStation use some version of Windows, right? And mobile, well, that's a computer, but that might be a brand of computer, but I'm pretty sure they might be using some sort of Linux operating system built on a Linux operating system or Unix. I have to research that one. But I'm if it is, pretty sure they won't accept that answer, right? And a mobile operating system will be Android. How many of you use, if you use a Huawei phone, a HTC phone, if you use a Google phone, if you're using Samsung, definitely those will be Android software. Okay. Anybody here using Apple? Apple, if you're using Apple, it would be iOS. And I have not seen a Windows mobile phone in a long, long, long time. But that was a thing long time. Yep, Windows used to make their own mobile phone. Amazon at some point was trying to come out with the Fire phone. Amazon was trying that, but I think they would have used a Linux or a form of Android for that as well. Okay, question 3, part A. State the name of the term that matches the following description. This one is easy. The process of starting a computer. That's an easy one. And if the four of you answered correctly, we'll get to take a longer lunch break. Instead of the 10 minutes, we will do 12 minutes lunch break. Might start it earlier too. So the process of starting up a computer. I understand this topic might be a little challenging, but it's okay, we will get it. So one person's said the correct answer. I need 3 more people to say the correct answer. And the reward would be a longer lunch break. 12-minute lunch break. 12 minutes. No, you can do it 12 minutes. To go back to the slides, I'll help you all out here. Process of starting up a computer. Any slides here? Right? People get any answers, but not enough. Come on, Jake and Hema. Come on. Give it a try. Give it a try. Process of starting up a computer. Okay, so the correct answer is booting, right? So booting is the process of starting a computer. Simple. But part B is a little tricky. A method used to split a program into manageable blocks. So the more or less kind of give you the answer. So it definitely ends with management. So it's something management. What management? Remember, we're using to split a program into manageable blocks. So let's go back to the slides and see what that could be. So it has to be one of these. Is it memory management? Well, let's see what memory management is. Memory management is when a program or data is too large to fit into memory, so virtual memory needs to be done. That doesn't sound like it. What about this one? Drivers. Drivers is each device that has a program called a driver to communicate with the computer. That doesn't sound like it. Let's try this one. Process management allows time for processes or software to use the CPU. That may be it. Let's see what this one is. File management. Files need to be saved and copied and renamed onto the computer where the memory is checked. Doesn't sound like that. So the question is a method used to split a program into manageable blocks. Is it process management? Let's go to this one, virtual memory. Virtual memory is when a program is too large to fit into the main memory, a method of virtual memory is used. This is where a program is broken up into manageable blocks. Does that sound like it? Is it virtual memory management? Is it virtual memory? Who's think it is either process management or virtual memory management? Who think it is virtual memory? Remember the diagram where the program is too big, the virtual memory, sorry, the main memory has to be split up. Sorry, remember if the program is too large, remember this here? This nice little diagram, the program is too large to fit into the memory. Program needs to be split up into smaller pieces so it can fit into the main memory. That sounds like virtual memory management to me. So I think the answer to that is virtual. Sorry. Yep, sure, go ahead. All right, that's virtual memory management. Or you could also say memory management. Oops. All right. Well, because not everybody answered the Bhutan question correctly, we will not be getting a 12 minutes break. So let's go on. All right. So let's power through these slides here real quick. So we're on to another topic called data processing, right? Now there are two types of there there are a few ways that a computer can do processing of data, right? One is batch processing and one is real-time processing, or even another one is time sharing. So batch processing, I think we'll take a little break in a minute or two. But before we go to break, we will the next topics I'll be covering will be data processing and interfaces. All right. So having said that, we will take 10 minutes and we will come back at 12:33 and I'll see you guys at 12:33 and we will continue. See you in a bit. Okay, so we're starting back shortly in less than a minute. Hope you guys had lunch or had tea. What did you guys do for your break? Who ate food? And if you had food, you could always make me jealous and tell me what you had because I don't mind having a little pasta right now. Oh, really? What you cooking? It is it is cooked good. Mac and cheese. I have pasta, so cheese, cheese, cheese. Mm, Jake having wings and fries, boy. Jake, where's that one, boy? Yeah, pepper fries, wedges, kind. Barbecue sauce, yeah, plenty barbecue sauce and fries. Somebody say they cooking barbecue sauce. I like how you spell sauce with a S, not the C. So I mean that sauce tasted real good. But you just spell it with an S instead of a C. All right. So thank you all for being here. So let's go into data processing. So data processing. Why is data processing important? Let me put this to full screen. Why is data processing important? Well, just like humans, sometimes um, we could either, as soon as we get a task, we could work on it immediately. Or sometimes we will wait until the task reach a certain amount and then we get to it. How many of us do that sometimes? We might say, boy, well, the deadline is next month. And because the deadline is next month, I will work on it the day before the deadline, right? So in other words, you wait for a certain amount of time to pass, then to work on a project or a process. Or also you can always think about there's a cup, right? And you have a cup that is being filled by a pipe, but the pipe is dripping a little bit. It fills up drip by drip by drip. And only when the cup is now ready to overflow, then you work on the you start to work with you then decide to say, okay, now that the cup is full up, then I could either empty it or I could add salt to it or whatever it is. But the point is that you wait until it is filled up. So think about it. We also call that batch processing. So batch processing is where data is collected together into a batch before we start it. So that is called batch processing. So we do it in batches. Think of it as we wait for all the data to be collected. Then we start processing the information together. So that is one method of data processing. So when we talk about data processing up here, data processing. So when we talk about data processing, we are also one of the methods of data processing is batch processing. And batch processing is where data is collected together, then we work on it. An example of that would be our electricity bill. And I should really stay on the water bill, our water bill. You do not get your water bill every day when you turn on the pipe. It's not to say, well, as soon as you use some water, WASL will then send you a water bill. Same thing with electricity. TNTech will not send you a bill every time you turn on the switch or turn off the switch. Same thing with your internet. You will not get a bill every single time you connect or disconnect to the internet. It just does not make sense. What they do instead is that they collect your usage of water, and you get a bill every 2 months in the case of WASA or the water bill. In TNTech, they used to do it every 2 months. The cycle used to be every 2 months, but now it's every month. You will get uh, a TNTech bill. So that is an example of batch processing. So utility companies will use batch processing. So once again, that is when they will calculate all of your usage of electricity, water, and your internet. And then you get a bill, they calculate it, put whatever rates and taxes on it, and then they send you that bill. So that is batch processing. Everybody understand that? That is batch processing. So essentially, it basically means the data arrives, then it collects in these batches, as you would see here, or servers. The data accumulates. The data accumulates. When a certain time has passed, then there's an output. Notice a delayed output. So when you get your utility bill, you get your usage from last month all the way up, all throughout a 1 month period, a 2 month period. So that is an example of batch processing. It's commonly used in utility bills, such as electricity and water, and your payroll system. So payroll is when people get paid at the end of the month, or bi-weekly. A lot of people also, they call it fortnight pay. Every 2 weeks, their pay is calculated, and then they get their pay over a 2 week period. Some people might say, well, I'd rather get my pay at the end of the day. I mean, how practical that is, that would be nice, or not, depending on the circumstances. But that is batch processing, right? So batch processing. So after batch processing, we will now move on to the other type of processing. Sorry, I need to go over the advantage and disadvantage of batch processing. So we see batch processing is where data is collected to get into a batch before it is dispersed. Sorry, before it's processed. Advantages, right? The advantage of data of batch processing is that once the data is submitted for processing, then now the computer can be left running without human interaction, right? So there's not much human interaction when the when batch processing has begun. Okay, let's leave it. Let's do it. Let do its thing, man. Right? And another good thing about a job can be scheduled for a time when the computer is not busy. So in other words, that computer could do other things as well. And so that computer, when you really think about it, because that computer can now multitask, it could do other things. And when it's time to do your job, it will do it. So it kind of brings down your cost, actually. So knowing that the computer can be used for other processes in the meantime, batch and processing computer hardware is actually can be cheaper. The disadvantage, of course, as with everything, there are advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages, well, there's only one disadvantage actually, is that there's always a delay before the work is processed. Right? So that's one disadvantage of batch processing, is that there is a delay. But the advantages are the system tend to be cheaper hardware-wise. The hardware and the software is, I shouldn't say the software, the hardware can be cheaper because the computer hardware can be used to do other tasks. So it brings down your cost. Questions about batch processing. It's very important that we understand this because they will ask us the main advantage and disadvantage, and also an example of a batch processing. Everybody good to this point? Okay, moving on. Time sharing. So time sharing system allows many users to share a single computer. So each person is given a slice of the time by the computer, and the computer works so fast that each user seems to be the sole user of the computer. Right? So time sharing, as the name says, is that everybody gets access to use the computer, and it happens so quickly you don't even notice that there's a delay. So an example of time sharing might be like, I don't know, some of you might be playing multiplayer games. So like with games like StarCraft, where you could, or I think Minecraft as well, where you play other gamers, but guess what? They have their own servers that will the users actually access. Even though you're playing on your computer, when you play in multiplayer games or playing games of the internet where you play against an opponent, your computer now becomes a client computer, and then you are using a server, and as if you're playing against five other players, there are now six users. So there is you, and then there are the other five users on the system. But everybody is playing against each other, and there's really no delay. There's no lag. And because everybody is using a server, or in this example, time sharing on a computer or server, and it happens so quickly, so fast, so quickly that it doesn't seem like you have to share resources, but you are. So that's an example of time sharing. Time sharing, so an example would be like multiplayer games, right? Well, at least for those of us who play games um, against opponents online. So, right, so I'll have highlighted here what you need to pay attention to. So time sharing is when many users share a single computer, and it happens so fast that the user seems to be the sole computer, seems to be the sole user of the computer. Now, real-time and online processing. So we would have spoken about batch processing, which is kind of like you wait for all of the data to be accumulated, then you work on the process. And and so therefore that has sort of a output. Delayed output. Time sharing is where everybody has allocated dedicated time on a server, but it happens so quickly it appears that you are not sharing the computer or the resources. So that's the first two. The third one is online and real-time processing. So basically what this means is that that computer, that server, not sharing nothing with nobody. It only have you. It only focusing 100% on that process. So for example, on an aeroplane, if you are on an aeroplane and the computer on the aeroplane, such as the autopilot, the sensors, the safety systems, the calibration, the gyroscope, all of those sensors, I don't think it would be a wise idea that the aeroplane computer system has to now share resource with somebody else. How would you feel about that? So when it comes to safety and very high priority tasks, online, online and real-time processing is mandatory. So online and real-time processing is where computer and peripheral devices are online when they are connected to a main processor so that the operator can interact with them. Printers are online, for example, when they are ready to receive data from the computer to print. Most printers have an online button and can press to turn the machine on. If it's turned off, they are offline. You can also be online if you're connected, say, through the internet, modem or network. So a printer is an online or real-time, uses online or real-time process because it's a printer. What else does it do? It prints. That's all it does. But to get a more solid idea of what an appreciation of real-time processing, think of an airplane computer system, an airplane training simulator, even the Tesla, the Tesla vehicles or any sort of electric vehicle that uses software to drive, especially those electric vehicles, BYD and Tesla. That whole dashboard is a real-time system, processing system, because that's all it does. It focuses on the task of driving, well, helping assist you drive the vehicle. So just to go further into real-time and online processing system, right? So a real-time processing processes data without significant delay. So what that basically means is that there's no delay. There shouldn't be any delay in a real-time processing system. So that's how you know the difference between a batch processing and real-time processing. Batch processing, there is a delay. Real-time processing, there is no delay. So it's very important. I kind of stress on that any further. So for example, again, airplane landing systems, an example of real-time or online systems. Also, ticket reservations. You won't want any delay in that. You won't want any delay in electronic fund transfer systems. When you book a ticket, you don't want any double booking. So if you were to buy a movie ticket and you pay your money, your seat is reserved for you. You don't want any problems where two persons are now booked. More than one persons are booked for your seat in the ticket or the movie theater. So ticket reservation systems are example of real-time online processing, and also your Google Documents, I would say. So the minute someone makes a change on a Google Doc, you see the change reflected on your end as well. So collaborative software such as Google Docs, Google Forms, OneDrive, your Google Drive, all of those collaborations are all online real-time processing. Questions. Now I'll pause here for questions. Questions, questions, questions. So we're good. We could safely say if we get an exam question, if we were to do an exam question on batch processing and online systems, we could answer it. We could ace it. Okay. So I would have stressed on this prior advantage of online system, no delay, and information is always up to date. That's like their thing, that's their characteristic. That's how you identify them. Disadvantage, however, is that the computer must be dedicated solely to the task. and the computer must be continually online. So online does not necessarily mean it has to be on the internet, even though um, for systems that use the internet, yes, they need to be continually online, for example, Google Docs. But online also means connected to the hardware and to the software. When they talk about online in this context, online on this context mean connected hardware and software connectivity. Connectivity. That's what it basically means. So so that could be a USB cable, it could be in the internet, or they could be wired, right? So that's what I mean by online in this circumstance, needs to be online. And another disadvantage is that these systems tend to be more expensive. Reason being is that they're dedicated solely to a task. So you cannot have it split amongst other users and tasks. All right, so moving on to data transfer. This one is pretty simple. We do this every day. Every day someone is doing, and one of you are doing data transfer. At every second, somebody in the world is doing data transfer. So data transfer is really where most computer users will, at some time or another, need to transfer files between computers. Students may need to transfer their work from a computer at home to school via a cloud-based storage, which we spoke about last week, or by using secondary device such as a flash memory stick, which they will retrieve when they are at their system, when they are at their school. So data transfer essentially means putting a flash drive in, download it, and then putting that flash drive onto your computer. That is what data transfer is. Or also downloading data from the cloud. So downloading from the cloud using the internet basically, or using our LAN. That's data transfer really, in a nutshell. Also, data transfer could be uploading of data. That is where you now send data to another computer. And that could be you uploading from your flash drive, you could be uploading from a network, and or the internet. And examples, Microsoft Office download from the internet using file transfer protocol. Okay, so data transfer could be either uploaded or downloaded, either from a flash drive or through the internet, or flash drive, a CD, a hard drive. That is data transfer. We are uploading and downloading. However, have any one of us here do something called a software update, where you might get a prompt saying from Microsoft Word, or Microsoft Office that, hey, your software is outdated, so we need to do an update, right? Okay, good. So some of you would have experienced that where software needs to be updated. You ever ask yourself what type of transfer that would be? Because most of the times when we enter a website address, we put http http://www.google.com or microsoft.com. We will put http, and http means hypertext transfer protocol. Don't worry, we will cover that when we go into networks. Because this was one of the questions we had in the past paper last week, where they talked about HTTP. But there's also another type of file transfer protocol. So the internet uses certain protocols to transfer data. They use hypertext protocols. They also use file transfer protocols. Just remember when you Just bear in mind, and you might see it now when you start downloading big files, you would see FTP, file transfer protocol. So FTP colon slash slash, and then you see our website address and it downloads from that address. They use this to transfer large files such as updates, right? Who remember Napster? Okay, I feel you might remember Napster. Or anybody else, or ever hear anybody talk about the good old Napster days, right? So Napster actually used, the protocol they used was file transfer protocol to transfer music. Oh, you don't? Okay. So back in the days before you had pay for music to download your MP3s, when MP3s now became a thing, um, Napster is what people used to do long time to exchange music and download music. So what would happen is that, let's just say Jake has some music on his computer. Jake could go on Napster, share his folder, and if anybody wants to listen to Jake's MP3 files, we would just go on Napster, do a search, and we were able to download his MP3s onto our computer through a process called file transfer protocol. We didn't even need to know the web address or his IP address. Napster will just do it, do it for us. It was like Google for MP3s. So that was the good old days. But of course, that is what we call software piracy. So that's illegal now. So don't do it. So that's data transfer. Now, of course, with bandwidth or the internet, there is a constriction of size. Data size is important to be mindful of. So it's kind of like this. You have a road, a nice smooth road, but think of the data as cars on that road going back and forth in both directions. If you have too much data or cars on the road and the road remains the same width, then we have a problem. And your width does not expand, it cannot expand, we're going to have traffic jams. So just like how we have traffic jams on the roads, we also have, well, back in the days, again, when the internet was, as we would say, slow or low bandwidth, we would have a lot of jam. The internet will move very slow. So because of that, the size of files, we must be mindful of large data files. And if there's any way we could take that data and compress it, it would make a huge difference. So how many of us would have used a compression software? WinZip and WinZar are the most popular programs for compressing files, right? What a lot of people don't realize also, your WhatsApp also compresses your photos and videos. WhatsApp does a lot of compression. So in data transfer, before transferring data, it may be sometimes necessary to compress the files, which is basically reducing the size of a file in order to have it ready to transfer over the internet or any sort of network, even on your flash drives. Also, MP3s are actually a compressed version of music. It is the most popular compression software. So that is data compression. So data compression can also be used to group files together into a single file, right? So this is where your WinZip and your WinRAR will become very important. And because again, we need to be very aware of um, file sizes. Who here ever had a try to log into our website for the first time and it taken long to load up because it have to load the pictures up because the web administrator have the bright idea of uploading high definition, yeah, high definition, and it taking long to load. It's not supposed to take so long to load. It's supposed to, a web page, front page, at least supposed to take 3 seconds to load up. If it takes longer than that to load, it has to be because your internet's slow. But if your internet is a standard package, it's supposed to load up almost instantly. But again, sometimes web pages are poorly designed and it might take long to load up because it contains too many pictures. But again, due to innovation in the IT field, when files are, we are now able to compress photos. So the file size is small, but we do not see a difference in how it looks. It still looks high definition, still seeing all the colors, you can still see all the details, and the file is compressed. It's a small file. We are not even seeing the differences. It doesn't look blurry. So that is popular. That is done due to some popular file formats. So JPEG, with movies, we have MOV, because to be honest, a movie is gigabytes upon gigabytes. But when you sometimes you download a movie of a CD is just what 4 gigs, and when in reality it's actually much larger than that. So DVD is a form of compression, JPEG is a form of compression, and like I said, MPEG or MP3 is a form of compression. So these are popular compression formats for files, graphics. They will use JPEG, PNG. You see this all the time. BMP is not a compressed file. Neither is, what's the Photoshop one? PSD. PSD is not compressed. Music, MP3s, compressed format for music, video, MPEG, most, right? Question time, question time. Oh, I love question time. I love question time. It basically tells us who was paying attention, who wasn't paying attention, who was following and who wasn't following. So, but that's okay. If you do not, if you don't quite grasp it, that's what questions are for. And you want me to go over anything one more time, let me know. So first question is, state this most suitable type of processing mode for each of the following. Right? So who could tell me what were the processing modes? We had batch processing, we had timeshare processing. Let me try this again. Sorry, something went on here. So we had types of processing, we have batch processing, we have timeshare processing, and we had online and real-time processing. Okay, so it's one of these three they're asking us for the first one. Printing 400 checks for employee wages. What is that? Batch processing, time processing, or online real-time processing? Someone said batch processing. Who agrees with that person? I have two persons who said batch processing. So wait, one, make sure I have everybody here. All right, good. So this one is batch processing. All right, so that's batch processing. Excellent. Excellent. Batch processing. Make sure now it's saved. It's batch processing. The second one, a computer can access the internet. Sorry, 1 second. Right. Right. So a computer that can access the internet. One person who said online processing. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right. Let's see. No. It's a process. So we are looking at our process mode. Sorry. Right. So as you would see here, say the most suitable type of processing mode. Processing. So when we talk about processing, we're either speaking about batch processing, online, or real-time processing, or time sharing. Right? So we will have, for this one, the first one was batch, the second one, the computer that can access the internet, that will be real time, right? Real time processing. We haven't reached data trans. This question doesn't ask anything about, part one does not ask about data transfer. The other sections, definitely, right? And the third part is here, computer is plugged in and turned on. So that one would be computer is turned on. That one would be again a printer dedicated task dedicated to printing. So that would be online or real time. Remember, it's online or real time processing. Okay, dokes. Next part. State the most suitable term for each of the following. Right? So Right, so part A, state the most suitable term for each of the following. A, transferring data from one program to another, to one that you are using. Transferring data from another program to the one you are using. Right, so that is where we'll have this. That is a data transfer. That one is pretty simple. Everybody should have gotten that one. Part B, the process of reducing the size of a file. I mean, that in itself should just be real simple. Process of reducing the size of a file for storage or transmission. Come on, come on, we're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there, people. That one is compression, right? So part B is compression. So now, part 3A, I mean, this one, I doubt, I haven't seen this one in a past paper, but it's good to know. State the most suitable compression format for each of the following files. A picture will be JPEG, right? Video would be MPEG, recording of a song, which would be audio, that would be MP3, right? So that'll basically be this chart here, this table here, graphics, JPEG, PNG, MP3, music, MPEG, video, right? Won't focus on that too much because that's not really a past paper kind of question, but it's still good to know because your teachers may ask that, right? So this is these are the answers here for that. Next week we'll get into application software, where we will talk about general purpose software, custom software, specialized software, integrated software, and user interfaces. And that will be next week. We just have a few more minutes. I will pause for a few questions, but at the same time, with the few minutes remaining, I would like to go over the answers for the uh, past paper that we did last week. So let me just pause this sharing. I am going to I'm going to go through a slide here real quick with some of the answers and the explanation for the answers. So for the person who still has to do the quiz, you could feel free to ignore this little piece here, right? I know two of you here did not do the quiz, did not submit the quiz. It would be nice if you do. I'm gonna put this here. Give it an honest effort. Do not look at the answers and then do the quiz, please. I will send this slide here now. So you all could just so you could have an appreciation of what the answers are. So for the next 10 minutes, the remainder, let me go over the past paper. Right, can you all see this one here? You're supposed to see a screen saying 2023 Paper 1 Solutions for Information Technology. All right, good. Now this is the fun stuff, the fun stuff. If there's one thing that you have to pay attention to would be, even though most of you here are in Form 3, going to Form 4 and Form 5s, I would suggest past papers, past papers, past papers, right? Because we want to ace infotech, and it's best we start focusing on it now, because when you get into writing exams, you will also have other subjects to write. So it's best we get this in our heads now rather than wait till last minute. Believe me, it will work, it will help a lot. I believe I did 9 subjects for CXC or 11, one of those. It's either 9 or 11 subjects, and it was a lot. How many subjects you guys will be doing for CSEC? How many mandatory and how many are optional? I think in my time I had was maths, physics, English. Was a whole bunch I had to do. 8, right? 8. Somebody has to do 8. 3 mandatory. Right. And then other schools say no less than 6 or 5 because you have a whole bunch of mandatory topics. So minimum 5. And so imagine 5 subjects plus infotech all within a 2-month period. Come on. So it's best we start past papers now. Okay. So who everybody agree with me on that? We could start past papers now so that when it comes for exams, this is one extra thing you don't really have to stress too much for exams because we would have covered did this already. Okay, so question 1 basically was asking which of the following is considered computer hardware. I think this question, most people got this one wrong. So again, let's get the answers wrong now, and let's get the go over the solutions now rather than later on. So computer hardware is basically components which you can see, hold, and touch. So hardware would be stuff that you could see with your eyes and touch with your hands. So that could be your mouse, your CPU, your input and output devices. So the answer is which of the following are computer hardware, and that would be output devices. So anything that's that you could output or input devices would be hardware. So that could be a touch screen, web camera, CPU, your RAM, all of that is computer hardware. Question 2. To use a program stored on a flash drive, the computer program must be transferred into the, and I would have gone over this, said this many times, it has to go into the RAM or the random access memory. And that answer is B. Everybody got that? Everybody understood that? Everybody understands that? Who could tell me? Well, the ROM is read-only memory, so that is the memory that is used for when the computer now start up. PROM is programmable read-only memory. It's okay if you don't understand it now because I did not cover this topic with you all as yet. So I did not cover programmable ROM or EEPROM. EEPROM is D here. EEPROM, this is EEPROM. EEPROM is erasable. Maybe I should have put that in the answers, but erasable programmable read-only memory. So that's what EEPROM is. And the way how that works is that to erase that memory, you have to shine a UV light onto it. And when you shine that ultraviolet UV light onto the ROM, it erases the memory. It erases all the data it has on that memory. In some circumstances, that will be necessary. Okay. Any questions about PROM or ROM or EPROM and RAM? Everybody good with that? Don't worry, I will cover PROM and EPROM on a following in another class later on when we get to that topic. And that's not a huge topic. Okay, so we got there. Question 3. Oh, this one was a little tricky. This one got a lot of people. And the question here is, which of the following devices is most likely to be on a point of sale system? Well, the answer, we say the answer here, we say the answer is A, 1 and 2. We are saying that. Now, why are we saying that? We are saying a touch screen and a barcode reader is most likely used for a point of sale system. But if you don't know, what is a point of sale system? So a point of sale system is what, when you go into the cashier, like you go into any sort of Massy store, Night Halls or True Value, you would see the cashier scan your product or scan whatever it is you're buying on a little red box. And every time it passes over that red box, you'll hear beep, beep, beep. So what that is doing is that is reading a barcode off of the item. So that's the first clue. A point of sale system will be reading the barcode, or you have a barcode reader. So that's your first clue. That's your first clue. So you might tell yourself, you know what, the answer is number 2. But wait, when you're looking at the answers, none of them saying 2 only. You have to either choose 2 and 3, or 1 and 2, or 1, 2, 3. So which one is it? So you have to tell yourself, all right, well, when the cashier pressing on a screen, it looking like a touch screen. So okay, it's a touch screen, then I see them using. Because most of them, and they say what most likely, most likely. I have not seen a point of sale system without a touchscreen, but I think majority of them will have a touchscreen. So they will have most likely a touchscreen. So it's 1 and 2. So you're telling yourself, all right, it can either be this one here, or it can either be A or D now. Right? It could either be A or D, but it has to be one of them. But you're telling yourself, wait now, an optical mark reader. What is that? I know that. What is that? So optical mark reader. What is an optical mark reader? Where do we use optical mark reader? So for multiple, in when you look at those, I mean, this is just an example, but when you are entering your answers into your multiple choice questions, where you shade off, where they tell you where you have to shade off within the box, the little mark area, the box there, and you have to use a 2B pencil, and you cannot shade outside the box. The hardware that marks that will read where you shade into that little oval shape. The device that reads that is called an optical mark reader. Or in some cases, you'll see it in those lotto booths as well, where they have to shade in the little box. That is what an optical mark reader uses. But you know, from going by the cashier, you don't have to shade no box, nothing has to be shaded or circling or penciling. So definitely not an optical mark reader. You won't be using that at all. So it has to be 1 and 2. So that's why the answer is A, right? Everybody understand that? Because I know some of you got that one wrong, right? And I can even show you why. I can even um, show you that. So in the answers here, if it comes up, and I know we have 3 minutes again. We're going to wrap up at the end of this last piece here. Computer moving a little slow. I guess the process management, not right. So if we go real quick into the responses for number 3, and number 3, we have this here. That was number 3. Comes up today, please. Right. So, right. So here on number 3 here, I got only not everybody got that one correct. Number 2, the correct answer was B. Right. So most person got number 2 correct, and nobody got question 1. I mean, the first question, nobody got it correct. Oh my God. Question 1, the first question, nobody chose. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. Okay, so two persons got number 1 correct. Look at that. Right? Okay, dokes. All right, everybody. So it's now 1 minute again remaining for class. Any questions before I wrap up? I will share this. I actually have to build out this slide, this presentation for all 27 questions, and then I'll share it. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for being such a good class today. I will see you all next week, same time on Zoom. Okay. So if there are no questions, I would wish you all to enjoy your weekend and have a very good weekend. Time to eat for sure. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Mac and cheese, wings and fries.